afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the last installment in our winter webinar series. Welcome to the SJC webinar series again on this Wednesday, March 6th, 2019. This is Finding Your Way with MidCareer Mentors. My name is Karen Katusian. I am the Associate Director of Alumni Engagement here at St. Joseph's College, Long Island. This, like I said, is the last webinar in our winter webinar series, and we focus on mentoring in each of our webinars that we've done so far. So we're closing out our series with MidCareer Mentors, and it's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Cara Tromba-Giannio from the class of 1989, as well as Lisa DiFiore from the class of 1985. They are alumnus from the college. They're going to tell you a little bit about themselves as well. But before we get to their presentations, as well as some of the things that they're going to be talking about this afternoon, just a couple of housekeeping items for you. So we've seen in the past couple of webinars that you have two options to dial in for audio. You can dial in by phone, or you can use your computer audio, which is also called voice over IP. We've seen in the past through feedback from previous webinars that those of you who are using computer audio may not get the best audio quality experience that we want you to have with this webinar today. So if you can, if it's available to you, go ahead and dial in and use a phone to hear the audio. We will also be sending a recording of this webinar presentation to all of our attendees. So in the event you have to hang up and dial in again, that's okay, you won't miss anything. If you have anything you'd like to add throughout the presentation, all callers will be muted throughout. So if you have anything you'd like to add, a question, or something that you want to answer in response to what our speakers are saying, please feel free to go ahead and type in the chat box. If you raise the hand, it won't allow you to speak, but it'll basically prompt you to type something in the chat box if you have a question. And if you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to go ahead and use that chat box. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Cara and Lisa, who are not only going to tell you a little bit about their backgrounds, but why they're here today to talk about mid-career mentoring. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and on behalf of St. Joseph's College, we want to thank you so much for being here this afternoon to share your insights with us about mid-career mentoring.
Hi, I'm Cara. I'm a 1989 Human Relations graduate of St. Joseph's College. Following my graduation, I did some casework for adolescents in foster care, eventually teaching them how to live independently, which kind of put me on the path that I went to Dowling, and I received my master's in elementary education, and from then on I had many experiences in the field of education as a home visitor for underserved families, as a classroom teacher, as a school intervention and reentry coordinator, and this year I just am starting the program at Stony Brook Children's Hospital through Eastern Suffolk BOCES, where I am the teacher for all of pediatrics, where I keep children with chronic illness, trauma, or who are hospitalized for a long period of time connected to school, bringing them a sense of normalcy and routine.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa DiFiore. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a 1985 graduate of St. Joseph's College, and I am a board-certified behavior analyst as well as a school psychologist, and I am licensed as a behavior analyst also in the state of New York. My background is basically behavior consultation in public schools, helping children that are having difficulties and actually trying to keep them in school, changing their behavior so that it can facilitate that. And my interests lie in really anything to do with helping children and their behavioral difficulties. More recently, I became very interested in behavior management and the psychology of helping children with chronic illnesses, and I also have, a little teaching experience along the way. And I've kind of always had an interest in both areas, but I am so happy to be here to do this webinar on mentoring, because that's always been a passion of mine.
Thank you both. And before we segue into your topic and your discussion, we want to find out a little bit more about the people in the audience today. We want to find out what brought you here today. So before we officially get started, we're going to launch one of our polls and see what brought you to this webinar today. Is it to learn something new, to gain more knowledge, to explore the possibility of seeking a mid-career mentor, something completely different, or it seems like fun, but I'm not really sure. So go ahead and choose the best response that you feel speaks to you right now, and Kara and Lisa will break down your answers and provide some feedback. We have about half of the people so far have submitted responses, so thank you both, thank you all of you for doing that. And we're going to share those results with you momentarily and see what Lisa and Kara think as well. Okay. Closing up that poll. Pretty interesting results here. Let's see what Lisa and Kara think. So 55% want to learn something new, 36% to gain more knowledge about mentoring in general, and 45% explore the possibility of seeking a mid-career mentor. 9% each said something completely different, and it seems like fun, but I'm not really sure. For those of you who said something completely different, feel free to type that in the chat box. It could be words, it could be phrases, sentences, whatever it is that came to mind for you that brought you to this webinar today. We'd love to hear about it. And Lisa and Kara, I'd love to hear what you think about the poll results.
Well, I think the whole topic of mentoring and mid-career mentoring is pretty new to a lot of people, because I think that their image of what a mentor is totally different than what we're going to present today. So I kind of like that you're here to learn something new, because I think that what Lisa and I are going to present is really a new spin on what mentoring and what mid-career mentoring is, and what the benefits of having a mentor really at any part of your career, but really basically at mid-career. There's many benefits to it.
I like that some people put in there that they were interested in obtaining a mid-career mentor. That's very encouraging. And it shows that people are open to the idea, and they are starting to become, gaining the understanding that that's a real possibility to help people along the way at different lifespans, at different points in their lives.
It's also really interesting that 45% of our audience know enough about mid-career mentors in general to want one, or to be interested in seeking one out. So as we go through our objectives today, hopefully this will answer some of those questions, or at least help you with that exploration process. But again, if you have things that you'd like to hear from Lisa and Kara based on what they're talking about with mid-career mentoring while you're here today, feel free to go ahead and type something in the chat box for us as we break down our objectives.
So today's our basic objectives are the definitions and the myths and misconceptions about what a mid-career mentor is. We're going to review some of the roadblocks and really focus on the advantages of having a mid-career mentor. We'll provide examples, some of the characteristics, our goals, and the benefits and gains of not only mentoring, but being a mentee as well, because it's really a reciprocal process. And I find that when I was mentoring people, they were also mentoring me. And I think that that's really one of my biggest goals today, is for you to really see that you are probably already mentoring somebody, or somebody is already mentoring you. You're just not seeing it from that perspective.
And I love this quote: mentoring is learning from someone who wants you to grow, and growing from someone who wants to learn, regardless of time, age, and situation. And the best part of this is that it says, at the end, it says regardless of time, age, and situation. And really, that is what we're talking about today. It's not really the classic way of that we think of mentoring.
So specifically, what is a mid-career mentor or mid-career mentoring? So I think I said it before, it's like when we think of mentoring, we think it's taking place between an older, more experienced person acting as the mentor, and then they are guiding or speaking with or connecting with somebody that's a little less experienced, maybe somebody that's just starting their career, and that person becomes the mentee. But and that they're at the beginning of their career, they're just starting out. But really, in contrast, a mid-career mentor takes place at any age or any point in a person's career. And when I first became a mentor about 4 or 5 years ago, the first thing that I had said was, wow, I learned so much in the 25 minutes that I spoke with my mentee. I learned so much from her. I think that I probably learned more from her than she learned from me in that first initial meeting. And it just set me on a total different trajectory of where I wanted to go on my career. So it really becomes a reciprocal process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's one of the best aspects of mentoring, and probably one of the most unexpected. And you're right. And it also, I mean, speaking behaviorally, it also shapes us. That other person that we're mentoring shapes us into the person that we are and the things that we might even introduce to that person. So very, very important. Mentoring can take place at any point in a person's life, and when putting this together, it really became evident that you can find yourself in a situation that you don't really expect to be in at a certain age, such as when you are beginning a completely new career that you wanted to explore, that you don't have that much experience in. It can also happen in the at the mid-career point when you switch to a related career, when you're just sort of not moving up but moving to the side. Also, when you're re-entering the workforce after a very long or a short pause in employment and education. That happens a lot of times to people, especially when they've had children and they stay home for a while and then they want to go back to work. It can be a very anxious period. And also, and this I think applies to Kara and I, when we met and we sort of developed a mentoring and mentee relationship that would be reciprocal and kind of go back and forth, where I know for myself I was exploring aspects of a career that I didn't know that much about, and I really needed that one person that could provide that for me, and that's how Kara and I developed our relationship, really without even knowing it. Did you want to say something else about that?
Well, that is really what the beauty of mentoring is that sometimes you don't even know that a person is mentoring you. You're just at the right place at the right time, or you're expanding your network. And I think that we need to see networking opportunities as mentoring opportunities, because you don't need to be assigned officially to somebody that's going to be, they're going to be my mentor and they're going to help me get to the next level in my career. But when you expand your network with people that are around you, you're actually opening up your opportunities for mentoring. And I want to focus a little bit on switching to a related career, because I've had so many experiences in education that I think a lot of my mentees benefit from that, because I kind of give them a different perspective on, okay, so you have a teaching certification, but you don't have to be standing up in front of a classroom of 25 first graders to be a teacher. There's many other ways and other avenues that you could teach. And, you may decide that you want to be a trainer, or you may decide that you want to work in the field of research where you're doing educational testing. So I think that experience is somebody is sharing their experiences about a career and how they used a specific degree is really part of what the mentoring is all about, is opening your eyes to what else is out there.
Absolutely.
That's such a great point, Kara, that you brought up, and it's perfect, really, for the next poll that we wanted to ask our audience and find out a little bit more about what you think is the most meaningful aspect of mentoring. So we're going to put this poll question up here right now, and go ahead and choose the answer that you feel speaks to you best. What is the most meaningful aspect to you about a mentoring experience? Is it meeting new people and identifying new opportunities, making connections with people, learning something new about an industry or career, something completely different, or I don't know enough about mentoring to know for sure? So go ahead and choose the answer that speaks to you best at this time. And we'll go ahead and share those results with Lisa and Kara and see what they think and see what they have to offer about what's important to our audience today. Almost 75% of us have answered, so we'll wait another moment or so. And we're going to go ahead and close that poll in another moment. So go ahead and get your answer in if you haven't. Okay. And let's go ahead and share that and see what Lisa and Kara think. So 60% feel the most meaningful aspect is meeting new people and identifying new opportunities. What do you both think about that?
Well, I totally agree with that. And I think that we need to really look at where we are right now and look at the people that are in our network, because we are meeting new people every day that have unique opportunities both personally and professionally that they could bring to assist you basically with your next level, where you want to go. And I think that when you have conversations and you're able to identify those new opportunities with people that are in your network, you're really opening yourself up to those new opportunities, because the information that you're sharing with one another can be very eye-opening. And that's basically what happened with Lisa and I. We were working on she became part of my network in several ways, but she had specifically worked on some practice recommendations that I was working on to help children with chronic illness, and we were all kind of at a crossroads, the whole editorial committee, about retaining children with chronic illness. And I'm not a big proponent of retention, but when Lisa came in and wrote a paragraph about building resilience in children, it just opened a whole different level in my mind about, okay, we really need to connect. I really need to talk to Lisa more about this. So I think it's important to really just see that as a mentoring experience, just something that might be happening every day in your network, in your work day.
Lisa, what do you feel about the industry? 30% of people also said learning something new about an industry. I feel like that's a pretty important reason why most people either are drawn together through mentoring or make connections for mentoring. What do you think?
Absolutely. I think if you're open to it and you want to experience new things and learn different things, maybe something completely different than what you're doing now, or maybe even in the same industry, but you maybe have been separated from that for a while. I think it's a great opportunity to learn from others and really benefit from having the relationship in real time, because I think what really encouraged me about that poll was that where it said meeting new people and learning and gaining insight and new ideas, is that it's nice to know that people aren't just, and this is a concern of mine, I guess I have to be honest about it, that in this day and age, people will reach out to others on Facebook, and from what I see a lot, they take advice from others on there, and they're in the virtual world. You might even hear a comment from somebody who has no background in an area, and it can intrigue you at the moment. And I think, especially for even the younger generation, that I think that becomes the value. But to see that poll and say that people want to meet new people and really get involved and things of that nature, it's very encouraging, because it really speaks to the value of having that relationship with another person and really gaining insight and information and having that relationship grow over time, as opposed to just clicking on something and coming up with things that people are saying in the virtual world.
Mid-career mentoring is really under-recognized in the context of the mid-career phases of life. It's underutilized and often avoided, and it's often misunderstood. There's a lack of understanding of the true benefit of what any mentoring is, but really at the mid-career.
Absolutely. You might not even realize that you need it at that point. And I think that, we'll talk about that again as we go forward a little bit, but I think that I found myself in that position a few times, not even realizing what I needed until maybe something, somebody came along at the right time or something like that to really open my eyes to say, wait a minute, I really need this. And conversely, even the reverse, where somebody could come into your life that's struggling at the time, you have a conversation, whatever, and then you feel like, wow, they really could use a little bit of guidance and somebody to walk that path with them. So again, it's that, this slide is talking about it being the process of mentoring, especially at the mid-career level, of being under-recognized. And I think that, like we said before, you can get into your own space and not really understand the value of reaching out and being able to have that reciprocal relationship. And I like what this says at the bottom of the slide, where it says mentoring is a universal tool, and it's blind to age, and it's blind to status, it's blind to occupation or goal, and it's blind to past experience, because you can any person at any point in any circumstance could really benefit from somebody who really can help them to take what they know and what their experiences are to the next level.
And it's underutilized because often we feel self-conscious about seeking help. Sometimes we feel like, oh, okay, well, I'm at this place I am in my career, and I shouldn't have to ask anybody for help. I should be the expert in this field. I should know everything, and I shouldn't have to ask for help. So you kind of start second-guessing yourself and your own personal feelings, but we have to realize that our personal life becomes part of our professional life, and our professional life becomes part of our personal life. So if we feel self-conscious in one, it's going to carry over into the other. So it really is, putting that kind of ego and pride aside. You have to really be self-reflective and think about, do I need help? And how? And I think the next question is once you realize that you might need help, and it doesn't have to be for years or months. It could just be a very organic conversation that you have with somebody, and realizing that person actually gave you a piece of advice that's going to take you to where you were kind of wanting to go. And being stuck within ourselves in our own situations. I think the two of them kind of play on one another, because if you feel self-conscious about asking for help, it's really basically because you're stuck. You're really stuck. You don't know where to go. You don't know about those situations, but you don't know about the solutions. There's so many solutions out there. You just have to find that network and that person that's going to help you to not make you feel. And then the next track is that feeling of isolation or removed from the profession, because you don't have that knowledge or experience or even the connections with others in the field. You don't need to know a teacher, somebody that's only a teacher, to say, oh, okay, that person only a teacher could help me to get a job in the teaching industry. You know what? But you might know somebody else that's outside of education that has that experience, that had maybe was an educator but reinvented themselves and has that advice, experience, and connections that they could share with you. So I think it's our picture of what a mentor truly is and what their background is that really needs to change.
And Lisa, I think also too, from a developmental perspective, behavioral perspective, I think people who feel isolated, removed, feel stuck are often the people that need the most help. But they're typically people who feel mentally paralyzed to sort of seek out that help.
Absolutely. And, it just came to mind also that I think that state of being where you feel isolated or removed, it really plays into that in certain aspects of when you're switching careers. It could come from a place that you had a very poor experience in your job situation, and that you become to the point where you internalize those feelings, and and then you blame yourself. And I've seen that several times with people that I've mentored in the past. And then some of the things that I really feel like I need to do in that situation is say to a person, don't internalize what happened to you. You need to understand that these things can happen, but if you carry that with you, it only leads to making you feel more isolated and less likely to really reach out to others. So I think that's a very important piece to this.
I think it also leads to the feelings of being misunderstood, which is the focus of the next slide.
Right. So I think that this really is the perfect slide, because really mentoring is really misunderstood because we have a lack of understanding of the true value of what mentoring is. And I've said it a million times, and I'm sure Lisa and Karen have heard me, that, I picture my life as a path, and each stepping stone on my path is it might not be where I really thought I was going to be or supposed to be, but it is preparing me for something else. And I kind of just keep that as my focus, and it has really helped me to kind of keep my eye on my goal and kind of always trying to reinvent myself. But we also have an emphasis on the quantity of time that we spend in these relationships. I mean, when Lisa and I first met, we maybe only spoke 5 minutes. But,
absolutely.
And it wasn't the quantity of time that we spent together, but it was the quality of the conversation that we had. And I'm the type of person that I have the conversation and I'm talking back and forth, and but then when I walk away, I am like replaying that whole conversation in my mind, and that little piece of information that Lisa may have shared with me or Karen may have shared for me or anybody in my network has really helped me. That was a mentoring experience. It wasn't formal. We didn't meet for a cup of coffee. We didn't say that we were going to meet at a specific time, but it was in the course of my day and within my network of people doing my job that I was able to take that quality conversation and really make it quantify what I was it was a value to me because I was going to take it with me. It helped. It really made a difference. And the belief that one should make it on their own instead of reaching out to others to help you make it, that is totally a misconception because it really takes a village no matter where you are and what you're doing. And that's why it is so important in building your network and not seeing it as like I have to have one official mentor, because I think that in every network that I have, in my professional network, my personal network, my network here at St. Joseph's College, every time I speak to somebody, they have made a difference. They have helped me, with my thinking, with my beliefs. So it's just really recognizing the value of your network and building that network that would really help you to really get away from that misconception of what a true mentor is.
Absolutely. I love this quote. Once again, this is one of my favorite ones because it really says it all. Human nature, human needs, and human feelings never change, even when lives and careers do. And I think this is great because we really are just in the end all trying to build our lives and our careers to have it fit into our world. And I think that the value of mentoring really, the mentoring experiences, they really are able to facilitate this. And I mean, I think when we had another slide earlier, it said we can get stuck in ourselves. But then also the value of mentoring, like with what Kara said, even the most momentary thing. A person can say something and that gets stuck in your mind. So instead of being just stuck within yourself and in your place, somebody might say something or enlighten you in some way, and those thoughts and the things that they say to you become stuck with you in a positive way.
That's such a great segue to our next question. Speaking of getting stuck, we'd like to know, as we segue to the next part of our presentation, what the biggest challenge, in your opinion, is with seeking out a mentor or seeking out mentors in general? Is it lack of physical time, lack of motivation, energy to maintain relationships, uncertainty about how to network, something completely different, or I don't know enough about mentoring to know for sure? You can check more than one option, so if you feel a few of these are big issues, go ahead and choose that. And then we'll go ahead and share your results in a few moments when more people have a chance to respond. We have about half of you who have responded. Thank you for those who have done that already. Thank you to those who are putting in your responses now. And for those of you still finishing up your poll answer, as we continue the webinar, feel free to jot down any questions that you might have or get them ready in the chat box, because we definitely will have a question and answer session, and we'd love to hear some of your thoughts or comments or questions about any of the things that we're discussing today. Getting a few last poll results right now. and we're going to go ahead and close those and share the results. So this is actually really interesting, and Kara, this speaks directly to what you just talked about with networking. I'd love to hear your thoughts about over 60% of us feeling like the biggest challenge with mentoring is the uncertainty about how to network or to make connections. How can we do that with mentoring?
Well, I think that we have to just look around and see that our place of work is our network, okay? So where you are professionally, there are people there that are in your network. It doesn't have to be a formal association. It doesn't have to be a formal meeting. It has to be somebody that you may have commonality with. Like when I was teaching, and I was in a building where there was a lot of teachers, you kind of form that little niche of teachers that you have the same personal and professional goals. They become your network. They're your connections. So I think it really goes back to that misconception of what is a mentor. I look at it as, you know, I have my personal network, I have my professional network, I have my church network, there are so many networks of people that I have, like even like in my church network, is one of the deans at Suffolk Community College. So not only was she did she spiritually mentor me, but she also was able to mentor me professionally because she was in my network. So I think it's just a matter of not seeing it as I have to go to a professional meeting every month and have dinner and be with the same people that have the same common interest in me. Our network is everywhere. Your network is in your neighborhood supermarket. When you see people, when you go there every week and you see the same people shopping at the same time, that's your network. How do you connect with those people? It's just in that 5-minute dialogue that you might have with them. Like when I was doing school intervention and reentry, and I was, you know, bridging the gap between the hospital and the school for my patients and their families. I can't tell you how many people in that network that I met that were educators, were not educators, but in our daily conversation, you know, they're like, oh, Carrie, you're my advocate, but they were my advocate because they helped to mold me into the person that I was really wanting to be. And sometimes it doesn't have to be that they're mentoring you for your career. They could be mentoring you to be kind. They could be mentoring you to maybe want to volunteer more. And then, well, if you're going to volunteer more, then you're expanding your network. So it's just able to really just basically open your eyes that your network is really all around you. It's not just a specific organization or a specific profession or a specific group of professionals in your career that are your network. Your network is all around you.
Absolutely, and I like what you just said, Kara, about the openness. The factor of being open is invaluable, really, because beyond your obvious networking opportunities in your life, things can happen around you, and I think if you're open to even catching them, it's a very positive thing. I have a very good, my train example, I love my train example. I'd like to share it very quickly, and this is a perfect example of being open to an opportunity, being open to the experience. I got on the Long Island Railroad. I sat down, and a man came on the next stop, a little bit older than me, carrying the briefcase. He sat face to face with me, put his suitcase down, and I can't remember really who was the first initiator of the conversation. It might have been me, it might have been him. He just shared with me spontaneously, again, being open to talking to another person. He starts sharing with me that he's an administrator at Touro College, and I happen to go to Touro College, so I shared with him that, you know, I went to Touro College, and we started a dialogue. He told me what he did, I told him what I did, I told him I liked Touro College, and then to the side of us, on the opposite side of the train, is a young man, probably, well, I'm sure very young, maybe 19 years old. And while we're talking to each other, I'm sort of telling him my situation about wanting to kind of switch over to a different area of working with children with chronic illness and giving him a little bit of my background. And he was sort of almost instantly sort of taking me under his wing, sharing with me his experiences in a similar field and how he was in the situation similar to mine, and we're going back and forth. And then I noticed to the side this young man who showed an extreme interest in what was going on by his contact, and his leaning forward toward us to make sure he could listen. So right away I said something to the young man, and I said, I noticed that you're very interested in what's going on right now, and I like that. That's a really great quality. What are you doing, and what are you up, what's going on with you? He told me about his school experience and how he was interested in changing his major, things of that nature. Okay, so the gentleman and I both turned to the young man now. This gentleman who seemed to kind of be giving me some insight, we both turned to the young man, and we started giving him some input about some of our experiences and things like that, recognizing that it was only a few minutes conversation on the train. Without going into too much detail, it was very interesting to me to see how all three of us were open to the experience on a train, not contrived, just that it was free-flowing and very interesting. And we both felt after we both got off the train ahead of the young man, we both felt like perhaps the things that we had said to him very quickly about our experiences might have made a difference for him. So it was, and then also I think I took a lot. I still have the man from Toro, the administrator, I still have his business card. He gave me his business card. But very interesting interaction that speaks to the reciprocity of the relationships, the way you can hop around in your role, and that they can happen at any time. So I thought that was a good time to bring that example.
And I think here it is ageless, where we
Exactly.
think about mentoring has to be like, oh, okay, I have to stay with somebody that's actually the same age as I am, where it was really ageless, where it was two people that were mid-career, probably had several other careers, and somebody starting out on their career wanting and realizing that, wow, these people have something interesting to say, I'm going to listen to that.
Right.
And I think that's something that the young generation really needs to embrace, is that really no matter where they go, there's mentors all around them, and it doesn't have to be, again, that official, I'm going to meet you at Starbucks for 45 minutes, and we're going to talk about my career and where I want to go. It's just listening to what's around you, being aware, and I think that that's part of the problem, too, is everybody's so caught up in their phone, their social media, what's going on, listening to music, that they're not really seeing that really everywhere they are, there are mentors all around you. Your network is every place that you go.
Absolutely.
That's such a great segue as we talk about other challenges and additional roadblocks. So there is some physical roadblocks, lack of physical time, like we said, the tendency to sort of be on technology, be on social media, but then there's also some psychological roadblocks that we've all talked about. Here's some examples of what they are, and I'm wondering how we navigate these roadblocks. I should need help, I don't know enough, I don't have much to give. What do we do about these things that we might think about ourselves mid-career?
Well, I think society places a lot onto that, is I shouldn't need help. I think that you feel like, okay, you're at wherever you are in your career, and I should know what I have to do next. I don't need help. Oh, it's embarrassing if I ask somebody for help. Or I'm embarrassed because I don't know what to do. Or what if you're at your mid-career and saying, I really want to change, but you don't know who to ask. So I think it's just really, is that I think for me the main focus is the one that says I shouldn't need help, because I think that we always need help, and I think that we have to sometimes put that ego aside. I think that we said that in the beginning, is that mentoring doesn't have an ego. Put our ego aside, because you always need help with something. I look at it. You're always needing help, and you should always be seeking help. And I think for myself, professionally and personally, if I didn't seek help, or realized that I needed help, and I think that maybe that has to do with my background in psychology. I don't know, but it's like I'm always seeking help. I'm always asking questions. I'm always looking for ways to improve myself, to improve how I work with the children that I work with. And I think that recognizing that help isn't a bad thing.
Right.
Help, and I think that, this kind of segues into overcoming ourselves, realizing that what we have to offer, or what people have to offer to us, is really very underutilized in our career. we have to realize that, I'm going to keep going back to that unofficial network that we have around us every day is really the most underutilized part of helping us in our career and even personally.
In order to open the door to success in mentoring and allowing ourselves to really overcome ourselves and to open ourselves up to the opportunities that mentoring offers from others, I think the common denominator is just being open to the opportunity. And I guess in a way it would take a little bit of a personal risk, but to reach out to others and ask them for help if you need it. Tell your situation and don't internalize whatever difficulties you might be having. And I think that really overcoming the barriers that you impose on yourself, I think, are the most important things to do. And on the bottom of the slide it says past experiences, personal and professional belief systems, inaccurate understanding of the aspects of a career, and all this emotional baggage. Those are the things that can hold us back. But I think the best way to overcome those things is to reach out to others and to not, because I think in a way we always feel like we're the only ones, but we really aren't. I think that's helpful to remember that.
Absolutely, and I think that's such a perfect segue as we sort of transition to this slide about what mid-career mentoring is and what it's not. And that's, when we look at this image here of what mentoring is not, we wanted to start with this first because this is typically, if you look at this image here of the two little people, one is carrying the other. That's absolutely not what mentoring is, and we always want to make that clear in every way that we can throughout any presentation that we have about mentoring. Mentoring is never, an opportunity or a reason for someone to transfer their stress or their challenges to another individual, to unload that or share that burden, so to speak. It's really to guide and coach and support and, more in a constructive way. Mentoring is not for somebody to literally carry you through a problem, a work situation, an emotional situation, or anything, related to some aspect of the challenge of what you're going through. Mid-career mentoring can help, but it's absolutely not a safety and security blanket. Would you agree?
I absolutely agree, and I think that it's the dialogue of the mid-career mentoring that really is what is so important. It is like I said before. And every day I'm talking to people, but as I walk away and I'm by myself in that 5 minutes that I'm walking from maybe, one section to my classroom, and I'm digesting and rethinking everything that person said, that is what is the mentoring experience. Is not them saying, oh, I'm going to do this for you or I'm going to help you do this. It is the actual words that they said and how they fit into where you are in your life and how things are going to work out for you. It's taking that experience. And I think another thing that I want to really point out with the mentoring is mentoring is not a way for somebody to help you get a job. Mm-hmm. Mentoring is not somebody that's going to say, oh, I work, for BOCES and, I could get you a job at BOCES, because that's not what mentoring is. Mentoring is teaching you, guiding you, giving you the tools that could help you to get the job that you want. It's not giving you that job. It's not giving you that opportunity. And like this picture shows, it's not carrying you from one stepping stone on your path to the next. It's actually helping you to make that step.
Absolutely.
That is a misconception that you could see, especially from young people. Not that I don't want to put young people down at all, but I think that, I guess it can happen with anybody who's very ambitious. They might think, wow, if I get hooked up with this person, like they're a CEO somewhere or something like that, wow, I can really get a job. That's not really what this is about. This is a really, really great topic that Kara and I talked about, and Kara is the originator of this, where we were discussing mentoring, and she said there's a hook, and we were talking about this a few minutes ago about where can you grab onto that relationship in in a potential relationship that could develop into a mentoring one, there usually is some sort of a hook. Something that happens, you might have an impromptu meeting, you don't expect it, but there is some sort of a hook, and that hook is sort of a connection. And I think that it's very, very important in this whole scheme of things that could be the thing that can pull a relationship together. But I think you need to look into maybe perhaps recognizing what the hooks could be, and then also being able to grab onto them and then develop that relationship even further. And there's some of these hooks are really very obvious, and some aren't. Like the experience on the train, that was a very unlikely place to find this kind of hook, where people get hooked together and it kind of, you just go with it. But there are other things that are pretty contrived as far as our exposure to others. But it's an important topic.
So some likely hooks are similar career interests, and that's what happened with Lisa and I. We totally met in a place where we weren't even talking about our careers, but we had a similar career interest, and as we continued to meet for that 5 minutes every once in a while when our paths crossed, we had that similar career interest, we had similar professional experiences. And, Lisa and I fit perfectly into this because we had the career interest, the professional experience, our perspective and values were very similar, and our we had similar personal qualities, and we really had the openness to listen to one another and to share our experiences with one another. And like I had shared before, Lisa's experience as a school psychologist really brought in a totally new perspective of when we were discussing, the importance of, working with children with chronic illness. So she brought in a totally different perspective into what we were working on, and then that ignited my hook even more because it was like, oh, I want to talk to Lisa more. And then when we went to we had gone to a conference together, and we were sitting at the same table, and we were, doing some things. I was like, oh, I want to sit next to Lisa. I want to learn more about what she's saying. And then after we talked about it, she was like, well, I wanted to sit next to you, Kara, because you were, I was interested in what you were saying. So, I think it's just, again, being open to those experiences and not really looking for that formality of a hook, of that introduction.
Absolutely.
And the unlikely hooks are basically, it's just a good fit, physical proximity, unplanned situation, or, just meeting by chance. I don't think any meeting is chance, because Lisa and I kind of met by chance, but we kind of just had so many things that really were those likely hooks that it wasn't a chance meeting.
Exactly. This just talks about the characteristics of an effective mentoring experience. I'll go through them quickly. Trust, mutual investment in the relationship, reciprocity, having a goal-oriented mindset, and a mutual engagement where things go back and forth between the two parties. And there's also flexibility in what is discussed, and an open-mindedness about what you're sharing, what the possibilities are. It's sort of like it goes along with brainstorming, where there's really no limits to what you can discuss in terms of possibility of growth. It's a dynamic process. There's empathy between both parties, and it's based on a person's needs. And also, we thought it would be important to put this list up as well. There really is no ego when this is going on, when the process is happening. It's not a competitive relationship. It's not contrived really at all. And there are no judgments, and there should be no discomfort between the two parties. And it should by far there should not be any rigidity in terms of what goes on between the two parties in the relationship.
And I want to go back to the growth-oriented mindset, because I think that's the most important piece of effective mentoring, is that you're willing to kind of put your ego aside to have that other person grow. And I think that sometimes that's lost in the mentoring part, right? And I think that you have to be willing to want to grow. You might have to be willing to really, sometimes, I mean, I haven't had a mentoring situation where it was really hard, where I had to be really self-reflective, but there have been some experiences that others have shared with me, is that like somebody really opened my eyes to something. I have to really be self-reflective. I have to now change. I have to grow. I have to be more growth-oriented to say, okay, well, I want to get from point A to point B, but I have to grow. My mindset has to change in how I'm going to accomplish that. And I think that that really is the piece that kind of segues to there is no room for that ego, that competition, judgments, or being rigid. When you have a growth mindset, you don't have an ego. You are not rigid. You are willing to make that change. You're willing to take whatever advice is that you was given to you and really help it to change you so that you can grow.
Absolutely. I think introspection really is the key here. And as much as we, it's necessary. And I think that growth can't really happen in any other way. The ability to look within yourself and see, well, what qualities do I have? What qualities do I need? And where do I really need to go from here? And being honest with yourself. I think for both parties, really, the mentor and the mentee.
So the uniqueness of mid-career mentoring is kind of hopping in and out of mentoring experiences and relationships. So it does not have to be a specific time frame. You could have one mentoring experience with somebody. It could just be short-term, that 1-minute, momentary, 5-minute conversation that you've had with somebody that could really change the trajectory of where you're going or what your thinking was. And, changing roles, like Lisa and I, like she would be my mentor and I would be the mentee, and the next time that we would meet, I would be her mentor and she would be my mentee. So it's not really having a specific role, but within that experience is changing those roles, offering of yourself, being open to share your experiences. I mean, sometimes you have to share the good, but you have to share the bad, because by sharing the bad, sometimes you're giving your mentee a different perspective on things. Saying, oh, wow, that could happen for me, but now I'm going to take Kara's advice and learn from it and maybe not do that exact same thing. I might do something different and then use that opportunity to say, well, what would you have done differently? How could I, and I think that you have to be open to that, and you have to be open to that knowing that, I've had many mentees that we met one time, and I was kind of like, oh, why did we only meet once? And then I had to kind of be self-reflective and say, maybe I provided them with everything that they needed. I gave them what they were looking for, and now, they're out there and they're, using that to their advantage. So you have to really think of it as being a very unique experience between yourself and whoever you're speaking with.
Absolutely. I think that's such a great segue to each mentoring experience can have great value, whether, just like you said, it's momentary, it's short-term, it's long-term. Lisa just gave a great example of something that could have been an unlikely hook, people meeting sort of serendipitously, randomly on a train, but there was, maybe speaking to Kara's point earlier, there might have been a connection, a reason why those people were sort of in that same space, listening to each other, feeding off of each other, and never underestimating the impact that even a short-term experience can have. So I think we've all thought of people, whether they're people we've met in passing, people that have been our professors or advisors on a short-term level that we can still think about that are impactful for us, whether kind of just like Kara said before, and Lisa as well, whether it's something they said to us, something that they challenged us to approach in a different way, to think about it from another perspective. All of these experiences can have great value, and to speak to the points of the facilitators, they're not always things that can be considered mentoring in the formal mentoring, where it's, let's say for St. Joseph's College, the program, we match you with a mentee or a mentor and you meet regularly. It doesn't always have to work that way, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. It does not have to work
that
way at all. It really doesn't.
Because I think that could be the most effective relationship.
Like I had said, that, to me, I look at almost every short-term experience that I am meeting with somebody as a way of mentoring me. Just every day in the nature of my job and the people that I meet, the patients, the families, the patients that become my students. they're always like, oh, you're such a breath of fresh air. You're helping us, keep my kids connected to school. But I'm like, but you're helping me to be a better person by your resilience, what you're going through, your experiences. So it's almost like a reciprocal mentoring and mentoring relationship where it is very short term. I'm helping them with something they need, and they're helping me with my own. It doesn't always have to be professional and professional needs or personal and personal needs. I could be helping somebody professionally, but they on the flip side could be helping me personally. And I think that that's another way that we need to see the value of what mentoring is.
Absolutely. And recognition of wait a minute, what's happening here? Let me keep this going. Let me not drop this ball, because this can keep going in a positive direction. The goals of a mid-career mentoring experience would be to provide information regarding as many elements of that career or career path as possible, helping one achieve personal or professional growth. I mean, they go hand in hand, absolutely. And to help one fulfill goals for that person themselves, and also to promote growth in career-related knowledge, self-awareness, resilience, and self-confidence. I think, it's a package deal. I mean, that's what we do when we become a mentor. And I think specifically in the mid-career period, I think it's even more necessary to maintain these goals.
And I think you also need to be self-reflective. I think that when you're self-reflective, it kind of helps you to gain self-confidence, and it helps you to be more resilient to whatever experiences that you might have, whether they're good or bad, because we need resiliency when good things happen as well as when, something might not go our way. You need that resilience to say, hey, wow, this is really good. How am I going to keep this momentum going? Not the resilience to be like, okay, I have to, keep plugging along. You have to see resilience as helping you in a positive way, not only as changing and helping you to build and to repair things that might need to, in your career that you want to change.
So as we have a few more minutes, we just have a few more slides that we want to share with you quickly. The 3 phases of mid-career mentoring really can be broken down into preparing, mentoring, and the closing experience, right? Regardless of how long or short it actually is.
Exactly. And I think that's really that is another key for me, is not having that mindset that, I'm going to meet with this person every single week at this place, at this time, and we're going to talk about this. It is great when you are meeting as a mentor and a mentee, that if you do have a list of goals or something that might have happened during the week that you kind of jot down that you want to discuss so you don't forget. But I think you have to really think about it is and that one slide that said it's not the quantity of time, it's the quality of the experience that really is what mentoring is all about. It's that quality of the conversation,
right.
That and being I really I'm very big with being self-reflective, and I think it's really just being self-reflective and taking the time to really think about what the dialogue was, and taking maybe 1 or 2 words. It doesn't have to be the whole conversation. It can be 1 or 2 words that really is what mentoring is about. It's
exactly what you're saying, Kara, the greater awareness here of all the things that we just mentioned. These are some of the goals, these are some of the benefits.
We have to always think of changing in the status of a career. Like, I think like Lisa and I were both, when we met, we were both kind of like at that kind of crossroads. It's like, okay, where are we going next? We're both in the field of education, but where do we want to go next? So things that Lisa said to me kind of helped me to maybe reinvent myself, and things that maybe I had said to Lisa kind of helped her to be more aware of other career areas. And I think that's really important of the benefits of the mid-career mentoring. And to talk about updated educational requirements and credentials. I mean, like, you might say, oh, okay, for myself, like, I reinvented myself just this past year. I wanted to get back into the classroom, but kind of knew I didn't have the certifications that really I needed to get back into the classroom. So it was a matter of myself reinventing myself, updating my educational requirements and the credentials that I needed in order to take me to the next experience. And by speaking around with my network, I found out that there were more cost-effective ways than having and to be back in a traditional classroom. There were online classes. There were other programs. So I think when the value of the people around us are really there to help us to gain that experience of being the effective mentor and mentee. And the last bullet says gaining experience at being an effective mentor and mentee by coaching, reflection, and processing reality. And I think that those are my three, those are basically my three key components of effective mentoring, is to be that coach, but being self-reflective and then processing what that person shared with you and processing it, and how does it fit into your reality? How is that going to take me to, and like I said before, I see my life as that, journey, that stepping stone. How is it going to take me to that next step in my own personal and professional reality?
And our final thoughts on the subject, which I think are very significant, even though this is a very simple slide. We really do need to remember that mentoring is timeless, ageless, statusless, judgmentless, and also limitless. And I think that just says it all. And our final quote here says, we rise by lifting others. And I think that is very, very true. And then I think that we never really should forget that when we're thinking about mentoring, especially in the mid-career period, because it can be a very difficult period for so many people.
Right, and I just want to take that, we rise by lifting others, take that picture of the two people on the steps, one carrying the other, because that's not what we mean by lifting others. We mean by lifting them spiritually, emotionally, educationally, giving them the insights that they are then able to lift themselves and to take, the experience, so that way they can, take that experience and improve on, what they're looking for to accomplish their goals.
I mean, the way you said it, reinventing yourself, being able to give somebody the tools to reinvent themselves. Because at the mid-career point, many people really do need to reinvent themselves to take their lives into a different direction. So I think that that's something that we really need to be aware of in these relationships. And it tells us what we really need to give in order to be effective mentors.
Exactly. That's the truth.
Ladies, I want to thank you both, Kara and Lisa, for your time today. And speaking all about mentoring, as you think of questions that you want to type in the chat box for our discussion, we have a mentoring program here at St. Joseph's College. Lisa and Kara, we're very fortunate enough to have both of them as mentors in our program. And we offer customized and flexible options for anyone who is a member of our community, who's a faculty, staff, student, or alumni who is interested in being a mentee. We can connect you with an alumni professional mentor who has 10 to 15 years of experience in your chosen field, or a field that you're maybe exploring or looking for more information about. Maybe you find yourself mid-career and you're looking for somebody who's also in your industry or in a different industry that you have questions about, and you'd like to utilize those connections in the St. Joseph's College Alumni Network to help you get some answers to some of those questions that you've been looking for. So we do have these options available. If you'd like to follow up with me to learn more and see if the program is right for you, you can go ahead and email me at the address on your screen. Feel free to take a screenshot of this as well, even though we're going to be sending you the recording as well at the end of the presentation. And before we get to any questions that people have, we just always want to remind you that it's because of the support of our St. Joseph's College community that we're able to facilitate webinars for our alumni and for the community at large for free. So please keep that in mind, and we'd love for you to support us in any way that you can by visiting giving.sjcny.edu. We'd also like to remind you about a save the date from May 1st, 2019. It's St. Joseph's College's first ever Giving Day. It's going to be 24 hours. It's a fully functioning social media campaign, and we can't wait to share more with you about it. Any questions for our facilitators? I just actually wanted to, as people are thinking about something that they might want to type in the chat box, go back to the last poll that we had, which connected in your opinion, what is the biggest challenge on professional mentoring? And we talked about learning how to network or being confused about that, but 20% of people said lack of physical time. And I know that for me, that's always something that I'm thinking about too, is where is my time and where can I be? How many places can I physically be at once? And quality over quantity, as you just said. So how can we, with time in mind, ensure that these connections maintain quality over quantity, even if we can't meet or see people as much as we'd like to?
Well, I think that with social media, texting, webcams, that you are able to really just connect with people, even if it is for 10 or 15 minutes. I think, texting is just, could be a valuable tool if used correctly. But, it's just a matter of really speaking especially when you have an official mentor-mentee, it's a matter of just speaking about what works for you. Would texting, work for you? Anytime I have a question, can I text you? Or, can I PM you, or can I send you an email, or, can I call you, or is there a good time for me to just call you? So I think it's just a matter of kind of thinking outside of the box about what works for you and fits into your schedule. And I think that you could really, with technology, you really could make mentoring work. It doesn't have to be a physical connection all the time. It is important to have a physical connection often, but just every once in a while you could, connect through, either social media or texting or something. But there are definite ways.
Right, and if the relationship is a healthy one, having to use those tools shouldn't really make a difference. If the connection is good, the hook was really good, the flow is good between both parties, the motivational will be built in to that relationship that will enable both parties to feel comfortable to keep in touch, to keep, connected virtually. And I think that, everything will come down to the health of that relationship.
Very well said. Thank you both again. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Lisa, for your time. Again, on behalf of St. Joseph's College and the Office of Alumni Engagement, we want to thank you so much. For those of you who are here with us this afternoon, we want to thank you for joining us as well. Immediately following this webinar, you're going to see a survey that's going to pop up on your screen. We'd really appreciate it if you can take a few minutes and just answer these brief questions for us. They really do inform our webinars, not only this one, but for ones in the future. So please make sure you go ahead and fill that out. Your feedback is extremely important to us. Thank you again, and thank you again, Lisa and Kara, for your time today.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you both.
To do this.